Let me ask you something no one dares to say out loud. Why does Scorpio cut people off in silence? No second chances, no explanations. What if I told you it's not random, it's not impulsive, it's not even about the moment you thought you messed up? It goes much deeper than that. Scorpio doesn't hate like the rest of us. Their hatred is a ritual, a sacred decision carved in stillness. And in that stillness, 3 zodiac signs have earned a space they can never escape from. But here's the secret most astrologers won't tell you. Scorpio doesn't hate out of ego. They hate out of memory, out of trauma, out of unhealed instincts. And if you're one of those 3 signs, they may still smile at you, still hold the door, still say, "Happy birthday." But deep down, something in them has already shut. Quietly, permanently. You won't even know when it happened, but Scorpio remembers the exact second it did. Now listen carefully. Over the last 20 years, I've studied Scorpio energy not from books, but from life. From real conversations with real Scorpios who lost friends, lovers, even family, not in rage, but in silence. I've watched them destroy bridges no one else even knew were on fire. And through it all, I kept seeing 3 patterns. 3 zodiac signs that awaken something primal in Scorpio, not because they're evil, but because they reflect Scorpio's deepest shadows. This video isn't just about signs, it's about mirror reflections. Who triggers your distrust, who awakens your paranoia, who violates your spiritual boundaries even when they mean well. For Scorpio, there are 3 signs that do that without even trying. And once it happens, the countdown begins. Not to revenge, not to rage, but to vanishing. You see, when Scorpio hates you, they don't scream. They disappear from the deepest part of their soul, and you'll never find your way back in. So if you've ever wondered why a Scorpio you once loved suddenly faded into shadow, no explanation, no goodbye, you might be one of these 3 signs. And if you're still here watching, then I promise you this. You're ready to hear the truth. Not the pretty version, the soul version. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The sign that triggers Scorpio's shadow. They didn't mean to offend. They didn't raise their voice. They didn't even lie, not in the traditional sense. But Scorpio saw something that couldn't be unseen, a reflection of their own darkness played out in someone else's light. That sign is Gemini. Now, before you jump to conclusions, this is not about right or wrong. It's about energy, about frequency. And Scorpio and Gemini, they don't live in the same dimension. Gemini floats, Scorpio dives, Gemini shares, Scorpio protects, Gemini adapts, Scorpio transforms. To the outside world, Gemini is exciting, curious, open, social, quick with words and quicker with charm. But to Scorpio, Gemini feels like danger in disguise. Why? Because Gemini reveals what Scorpio hides. And worse, Gemini makes light of what Scorpio takes deadly seriously. Let me tell you a story. The Scorpio and the Gemini, a case study. She was a Scorpio, 29 years old, a trauma nurse, emotionally intense, spiritually disciplined. He was a Gemini, brilliant copywriter, lived in 4 cities by the time he turned 30, fast-talking, quick-witted, the life of the party. They met during a humanitarian trip. She was drawn to his brilliance. He was captivated by her mystery. For 2 months, they talked every night. She opened up, not easily, but deliberately. Scorpio doesn't share unless they see the soul. He made her laugh. He made her feel seen. She told him about the miscarriage she never told her own mother about. He kissed her forehead and said, "You're so deep. I could write a novel about you." And then he vanished. 3 weeks. No call, no text. When he finally reached out, it was a casual voice note. "Hey, sorry, got swamped with life. Want to catch up this weekend?" She didn't reply. But don't misunderstand. She wasn't hurt by the silence. She was hurt by the weightlessness of his return. To Scorpio, silence is sacred. If you disappear, it must mean something. You've gone into the underworld, you've faced a demon, you've been reborn. But for Gemini, silence is just Tuesday. And in that moment, something broke. She didn't block him. She didn't curse him. She simply removed his access to her spirit. And to this day, he still texts every few months. Miss our talks? Random memory of us? Hope you're well? Let's grab coffee when you're back in town. He doesn't realize she already said goodbye, quietly, in her soul. And Scorpio goodbyes are final, not because they hate you, but because they can no longer trust their own heart near your energy. The psychology behind the conflict. Gemini is air, mutable. It shifts, bends, multiplies. Scorpio is water, fixed. It deepens, solidifies, resists superficiality. Where Gemini sees information, Scorpio sees implication. Where Gemini uses humor, Scorpio sees avoidance. Where Gemini flirts, Scorpio reads spiritual contracts. To Scorpio, Gemini isn't evil, they're reckless with energy. They don't realize that every word lands like a spell. Every promise, even half serious, creates a chord. And that's where the fracture happens. But why does Scorpio secretly hate them? Because Gemini represents a kind of freedom Scorpio both admires and fears. The freedom to say anything, even if it wounds. The freedom to walk away even when it matters. The freedom to feel a little bit of everything and commit to nothing. To Scorpio, that's not freedom. That's betrayal waiting to happen. So they don't fight Gemini. They observe them. They love them sometimes. But deep down, they keep a spiritual wall between them. Because the one thing Scorpio can't stand is giving their soul to someone who treats it like a story. Life lesson number 1. Depth doesn't require validation. Scorpios often confuse being deeply understood with being deeply valued. But the truth is, not everyone is capable of understanding your depths. And that's not their fault, but it is your responsibility to protect your depth from shallow waters. Gemini isn't evil, they're wind, and you, Scorpio, are ocean. Wind may stir the surface, but it never touches the abyss. Let them dance, you dive. Chapter 2. The sign Scorpio can never trust with secrets. You don't have to betray a Scorpio with a weapon. You don't have to sleep with their enemy. You don't even have to lie. Sometimes all it takes is telling their truth to someone else. And Scorpio will never look at you the same way again. Because for Scorpio, secrets aren't gossip. They're sacred. A shared secret is a spiritual vow, a silent contract written in invisible ink. Once you break it, you don't just break trust, you shatter the sanctity of the connection. And there is one zodiac sign that time and time again stumbles into Scorpio's soul with the best of intentions, but leaves the door open behind them. That sign is Sagittarius. The Sagittarius problem, unfiltered truth versus sacred silence. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, big truth, big stories, big vision. They believe in honesty even if it stings. They speak truths others are too scared to admit. They break social rules to protect moral ones. And that's where the war begins. Because Scorpio believes some truths must be protected. Some knowledge is not for everyone. But Sagittarius believes if it's true, it must be spoken. If it's real, it must be shared. This difference, this exact polarity, is why Scorpio finds it nearly impossible to fully trust Sagittarius, no matter how much they love them. The story when Sagittarius told the wrong truth. He was a Scorpio, 34, CEO of a mid-sized tech startup, controlled private, loyal to the point of madness. She was a Sagittarius, travel blogger, free-spirited, never stayed in one country more than 4 months. He admired her light, she adored his depth. They dated for 11 months. One night during an investor dinner, a conversation turned personal, The table joked about childhood trauma and therapy. She laughed, touched his arm, and casually said, "Oh, you think that's bad? You should hear about his father. He hasn't spoken to him in 12 years. The room froze for a split second. He forced a smile. No one noticed, except the Scorpio inside him. That night, he didn't yell. He didn't argue. He simply said, "You knew that wasn't for them." She replied, "I didn't mean it like that. I was just being open. I thought it was real talk." And Scorpio's heart whispered back, "Yes, but not your truth to tell." The next morning, she woke up to a note. "Don't reach out. This is permanent. Take care of yourself." He never answered another message again. The deeper conflict. Sagittarius seeks freedom. Scorpio seeks control. Sagittarius doesn't understand walls. Scorpio doesn't understand a world without them. Sagittarius shares stories as lessons. Scorpio hides stories as protection. Sagittarius believes in live and let live. Scorpio believes in protect what you love even from the world. And that's the emotional collision. To Sagittarius, truth is medicine. To Scorpio, truth is fire, and not everyone deserves the flame. So when Sagittarius speaks freely, Scorpio doesn't just feel exposed. They feel violated, and they may not confront you, but they will retreat. And when Scorpio retreats into silence after a broken trust, they don't come back. But do they truly hate Sagittarius? Number Scorpio may still love Sagittarius. They admire their courage, their honesty, their unapologetic nature, but they secretly fear them. Because Scorpio knows, this person might never betray me out of malice, but they will betray me out of carelessness. And Scorpio can handle enemies. They can survive liars. But someone who accidentally wounds their soul, that's the most dangerous person of all. Because you can't predict them. You can't prepare. You can't defend. You can only walk away. Life lesson number 2, not every truth is yours to share. Scorpio teaches us something profound. There is power in silence. There is dignity in privacy. And there is sacredness in protecting the unseen. You may believe that sharing is healing, but Scorpio knows. Sharing with the wrong person can become your next wound. So if you carry someone else's story, hold it like a flame. Don't wave it around to show how warm it made you feel, because to them it might burn their soul. And Scorpio never forgets who lit that match. Chapter 3. The sign that makes Scorpio feel invisible. There is a special kind of pain that Scorpio rarely speaks of. It's not betrayal. It's not abandonment. It's something far more haunting. Being seen by everyone except the one person they cared most to be seen by. And this pain doesn't come from lies or secrets. It comes from the spotlight that never touches them, from being near someone so radiant, so self-assured, so captivating, that Scorpio's quiet strength becomes a shadow. That sign is Leo. Leo versus Scorpio, when fire outshines water. On paper, Leo and Scorpio are both powerful, fixed signs, loyal, commanding, protective, but their style of power is opposite. Leo shines outward, bold, warm, center stage. Scorpio pulls inward, intense, silent, magnetic from the shadows. When they come together, the chemistry is undeniable, but so is the imbalance. Because for Scorpio, nothing hurts more than giving their soul, only to be treated like the supporting character in someone else's story. The story. The Scorpio who disappeared without a fight. She was a Leo, charismatic, fashion editor, walked into any room like she belonged there. He was a Scorpio, marine biologist, quiet genius, never asked for attention, but always noticed the small things. They met at a friend's dinner. She lit up the room. He lit up her curiosity. For 8 months, they were inseparable, at least on the surface. She introduced him to everyone. He listened to her dreams. She posted selfies of them online. He kept a private journal with poems about her. And yet, Every time he opened up about his inner world, she smiled, nodded, and changed the subject. Every time he invited her to silence, she filled it with stories about her job, her followers, her goals. She wasn't cruel, she just didn't know how to hold depth. She didn't realize that when Scorpio shares something vulnerable, it's not conversation, it's communion. And then one day, without warning, he ghosted. No argument, no closure, just absence. She texted, "Are you okay? Was it something I said? You could have just told me." But Scorpio didn't reply, not because he was angry, but because he finally accepted the truth. She never really saw him, only the parts of him that reflected her own light. The psychology, Leo's presence makes Scorpio feel small, not intentionally, but spiritually, Leo radiates. Their energy says, "Look at me, hear me, celebrate me." Scorpio whispers, "Feel me, sense me, understand me, even in silence." To Leo, silence means something's wrong. To Scorpio, silence is where the truth lives. Leo doesn't mean to ignore. They simply illuminate what they can see. But Scorpio often hides in the shadows, hoping someone will sense them anyway. And when that doesn't happen, it triggers a core Scorpio wound. I gave you everything, but you only loved the version of me that looked good in your light. But does Scorpio hate Leo numb? In fact, many Scorpios admire Leos deeply. Their courage, their heart, their unapologetic nature. But admiration isn't the same as safety. And Scorpio needs to feel spiritually safe, not just physically desired or emotionally tolerated. With Leo, Scorpio often feels like a secret that doesn't fit the narrative, an undercurrent that has no place in the spotlight. So instead of demanding attention, Scorpio quietly exits. Not to punish Leo, but to preserve their own sacredness. Life lesson number 3, being seen is not the same as being understood. Scorpio teaches us that visibility isn't everything. Sometimes the most important parts of us are invisible, and that's okay. But they also remind us, never offer your soul to someone who only wants your surface. Leo didn't mean to hurt Scorpio. They simply weren't built to read whispers. They respond to applause, not silence. They see the crown, not the scar. So Scorpio walks away, not out of hate, but out of necessity. Because if you have to scream to be seen, it's no longer intimacy, it's survival. Conclusion, final reflections, and soul lesson. Now that you've heard the stories, the truth behind the silence, the energy behind the absence, maybe you understand Scorpio a little more clearly, not as the vengeful one, not as the jealous one, but as the soul who feels so deeply that even subtle wounds become sacred lessons. Scorpio doesn't hate for sport. They don't hold grudges like a game. They carry memory as protection. And once a wound becomes part of their soul story, they don't rip the page out. They just stop reading it aloud to you. Gemini taught them that words can float away, but wounds don't. Sagittarius reminded them that truth isn't always safe in every mouth. And Leo, beautiful Leo, made them realize that being seen is not the same as being understood. So do they hate these signs? No. They grieve them, because Scorpio only ever hates what they once hoped to trust. And that's the part most people never realize. Scorpio's silence isn't revenge, it's mourning. But here's what I want you to take from this, whether you're a Scorpio or not. Life doesn't give us perfect matches, it gives us mirrors. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most weren't villains. They were reflections of our deepest fears, our unhealed wounds, our secret doubts. Scorpio is the Zodiac's mirror of transformation. They show us what needs to die, so something deeper can be born. And if a Scorpio has ever walked away from you, ask not what they did wrong. Ask what their silence was trying to teach you. Because when a Scorpio closes a door, the universe opens a shadow, and inside that shadow, you may just find your truth. Final invitation to the viewer. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt the quiet sting of a Scorpio's goodbye? Have you ever been one of these signs, misunderstood, unfiltered, or too bright to see what was hidden? Or maybe you are the Scorpio, and this video just whispered the words you never dared to say. Tell your truth in the comments, no judgment, just depth. And if you felt understood today, not just entertained, subscribe to this channel, The Path to Buddha Wisdom, because here, we don't chase the light, we uncover what lives in the dark. Until next time, stay sacred, stay silent, stay Scorpio. If you felt something stir in your soul today, if this video spoke to a truth you've carried silently, then this space was created for you. Here on the path to Buddha wisdom, we don't chase trends, we excavate truths. We don't offer surface-level Zodiac talk, we offer soul-level revelations. So if you're done with empty horoscopes and ready to explore the shadow, the silence, the depth of who you really are, then don't just scroll past. Subscribe to the Path to Buddha Wisdom and join a community that honors mystery, transformation, and truth. Because this isn't just astrology, this is inner alchemy, and your next awakening begins the moment you hit that button.